Hi, my name is Veneer, and I'm part of the team that manages several makerspaces here on campus. And we've had a lot of interest in developing a woodworking workshop to introduce you to some basics of woodworking. And I'm going to show you some of the work we'd like you to do before attending this workshop here so that we can have a successful time together working on this project. The project we're going to be working on today is a tissue box cover. So here is a standard tissue box, and it has this problem, especially that happens as the tissue box gets emptier and emptier. And as you lift a tissue out, the force to remove the tissue is greater than the weight of the tissue box. So we can solve that problem with what I have here, and you can also see here on our light board. It's a tissue box cover with beautiful veneer marquetry, and of course it adds weight to the tissue box so that it is now a one-handed pull to take out a tissue. So what I'm going to show you here in this video is the steps you need to complete before you attend the in-person portion of this workshop. The prerequisite for this is that you have taken our laser cutter training or our digital fab training so that you know how to use our laser cutters. So let's begin. I think I explained to you the problem of how we're going to solve the kind of force of gravity being less than the force to remove a tissue. And that's something that we can solve with a fun little project we'll work on together. So here is the solution in its finished form. It has 5 sides, it's open on the bottom, and a slot in the top. But you can see here the construction of this is actually 4 mitered sides on 3 sides. By miter, I mean it's got a 45-degree cut. And then the top has a slot milled, and the slot is also rounded over, and it also has 45 degrees on all 4 sides. So 45 degrees on only 3 sides here and 4 sides on the top. But before we can do that, we have to do some prep work, and that's what I'm here to show you. We're using a technique called veneer marquetry. Now, what is veneer marquetry? The construction of this box is actually made of plywood, which interleaves in different directions slices of wood so that the wood doesn't expand and contract with the seasonal movement of wood as it gets humid in the summer and dry in the winter. But the finished surface is something that we can decorate using different species of wood that have different colors. These are all the natural color of wood, and you can put them together to paint pictures. The old way that it used to be done is with a very thin blade, and here is Craig Vandal Stevens, a master at this. He's using by hand a coping saw. He is taking 2 slices of wood in contrasting colors and cutting them both at the same time, and then he can replace one with the other to get back to one thin slice of wood. A better way to look at that, and something you can notice here, is that his table is at a slight angle. So why the angle? Well, it's actually a really fun, clever concept where you take the 2 pieces of wood. So here is piece 1, and this is in a color that I'm drawing in white. And here is piece of wood 2, and I'm drawing it in color green. But by tilting the table at a certain angle, what you get, and you calculate this angle based on the width of the blade, you actually cut in a clockwise way around your shape. And what you get is the bottom piece now, which is relieved, is exactly the same size as the top piece, plus the parts that turned into sawdust that were removed by the width of the blade. So green goes into the space made by the white plus the vacancy here by the blade. And you get this really, really precise, tight fit, and you also get a nice little angle to kind of trap that bottom piece of wood in. So that's all good and well, but we're going to actually use some modern techniques that we can move much faster because we have laser cutters in our studio. So what we have here is the design that I actually used for this sample box. As you can see here, this is the design. And you're going to get a template on our Canvas site for this that gives you the Adobe Illustrator template that has the size of this rectangle. But what you can notice in this design is a couple of features. The first is there's a full border around your design. And this just, if this is your design, it really makes it easy. If you've ever done a jigsaw puzzle, the first thing you do is you make the frame, the outside of the jigsaw puzzle, and then you build from the outside in. And the same thing is going to happen here. So having a design that has a complete frame is good. The other thing that you should try to do when you're editing this in Illustrator, because we're going to send this to the laser cutter, is if you have two parts, like I show here, what you try to do is avoid having a double line here. So what you don't want to have is in the Illustrator file lines that outline part 1 and lines that outline part 2. Because what's going to happen is it's going to try and double cut that middle line. And of course, this becomes particularly problematic when you have many, many pieces. So keep a full, complete border around the design. And also aim for somewhere between 10 and 20 individual pieces. If you want to get more ambitious, you can. But given the size of this, as you get more pieces, they get smaller. And we're laser cutting them, and there's small pieces of wood, and they start getting almost too small to manage and handle. And we also have to worry about them falling through or getting blown away in the laser cutter. So this is a great example of a good design, but please bring your imagination to it. I'll show you some examples that other students have made to kind of get your imagination flowing. So if this were your design, you would put it in the template in 4 locations, the exact same thing. And the template really would allow you to just put 4 of these boxes repeated in a 12 by 12 inch square. And what you're going to then do is we're going to have a box available to you of different wood species cut into the same thin thickness. It's called veneer. And you're going to cut out 6 by 6 inch squares from the various colors that you select or species of wood. And you're going to tape them to these carrier boards that we're going to give you. They're literally 12 inch by 12 inch pieces of masonite. And you're going to tape your 4 pieces, paying some care to kind of get the center of all 4 pieces in the center of the 12 by 12 inch square. With your 4 pieces selected and your template filled out with your design, you're literally going to cut that design using the basic settings that are outlined in the laser cutter you're using. Since you'll be doing this in Metropolis, which is one of the maker spaces that I manage, I'll ask that you use the 2 smaller laser cutters because they have the ability to, with just a simple switch that you don't turn on, to remove the air assist. The air assist is normally used when you're cutting through thick material to push away a lot of the smoke. We're cutting through such thin material that A, we're not going to generate a lot of smoke, but also these tiny little pieces would go flying all over the place if you had that air assist on. So remember, no air assist. If you're doing this in some other facility, no air assist. And if you can control the speed of the exhaust air and lower it a bit, we just don't. Some of them are set so high that it's like a vacuum cleaner, and it would just suck all these small pieces up through the vents at the top of this photo. With those cut, what we're going to do is remove that continuous frame, the kind of border of your puzzle, from one of the colors of wood. And then you're going to, on the back side, put blue tape. We'll have this available for you, but this is that blue painter's tape that's sticky but not too sticky. So don't use packing tape or duct tape. Use that painter's tape that's designed to be easy to pull off when you're done. Now, if you flip it back to the other side, you can see we have our puzzle frame, and we have this nice sticky side of the blue tape available to us to now start depositing different pieces. And this is something to think about in your design. With the contrasting colors and the way the pieces interact, you're going to be pulling different contrasting colors from the other 3 pieces of wood and building back to your finished design. And you're going to be doing this 4 times. So what we get kind of for free with this technique is we get 4 complete surfaces to glue onto our finished tissue box. They all relate to each other through the design, but they're all different in terms of the contrast. And you can see here I'm just slowly doing that, repeating that pattern, putting tape on the back side, flipping it over. And a nice thing to do is when you finish laser cutting, be very careful taking it out so that all of these pieces stay where they originally came. It makes doing the puzzle a lot easier. In this case, I have a very organic design. So literally this piece is not the same as this piece, is not the same as this piece, and they're not symmetric around any axis. So having their orientation and location makes doing this kind of puzzle assembly very easy. And when you're done, you now have these 4 pieces of puzzles of your design reconstituted with contrasting colors that are ready to join us in person in the finished workshop. So this is where we expect you to be by the time you come to the in-person workshop. And if you have any questions, we're going to be trying this out in the spring and summer of 2023. We'd love some feedback. But we'll see you live and in person at the start of the workshop with your design completed to this state.